to eat.
The leader of the National Party says the proposed capital gains tax would reduce retirement savings for an average earner's KiwiSaver by $64,000 over the course of their working life. Well, to talk about that and other matters relating to the capital gains tax, Simon Bridges is with me now in the Auckland studio. Good morning to you.
Kia ora, Guyon.
So $64,000 over the course of a working life. Do you stand by those numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had them checked out by a number of senior KiwiSaver providers. If anything, we've been conservative on the numbers, in as much as we've taken the minimum contribution of 3% from the employee and 3% from the employer.
Yeah, but what you haven't done is include any of the good bits.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me run you why that's true. Because what the report and the government has put forward are three options to get to something they call, quote, fiscally neutral. Only one of them has the KiwiSaver exemptions in it. And secondly, I have absolutely no faith, and indeed Grant Robertson and Jacinda Ardern, I mean, I'd ask you to ask them tomorrow, they will not confirm it's fiscally neutral.
Okay.
It won't be.
You look at Simplicity, which is a KiwiSaver provider. They've done the numbers on this. Have you seen those?
I have.
Yeah, and they say if you're earning $40,000 a year and contribute 3% of your salary, you'll have between 80 and 100 grand or more in your KiwiSaver at retirement. If you're on 70k and contributing 3%, you'll be between, well, 840 lower, but up to 7,000 high, and it's only for the 100,000 earners where you start to see a real downer on the balance.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Up to 13,000 lower for that. So,
well, I think my friend Sam is doing a good job at getting publicity for Simplicity, and good on him for doing that. But the reality of it is, our figures are conservative. I could run you broadly speaking through how we get to $64,000. Under 48,000, to take your point, let's be fair about it, to take your point, under 48,000, if you did all of the things that one of the scenarios says, they may be better off. The reality is, over that, they certainly wouldn't. Over 70, and $70,000 a year is not wealthy in this country anymore. They would be materially worse off. And 64 grand, by the way, the average wage in this country over a year is $62,000. So it's a year more working for tax for Jacinda Ardern.
Yeah, but my point is that if in any scheme you take out all the good bits and leave the bad bits, you're left with a bad scenario.
No,
that's what you've done. You haven't taken into account
Disagree.
any of the incentives or any of the concessions that they're making, which could make people, especially on low incomes, better off.
Totally disagree. What we've done is realistic. We are saying conservatively, over the life of actually a average wage earner, it's 64 more grand they will pay. Only one of the scenarios in this report would give any benefits. I'm telling you now, as I sit here, they won't do those exemptions. Grant Robertson and Jacinda Ardern need these taxes. This will not be fiscally neutral.
Let's talk more broadly about the notion of a capital gains tax in a broader context. 35 OECD countries, right? Mm-hmm. How many do you reckon don't have a CGT?
Oh, look, a heap of them will.
How many do you think don't?
I presume, because you're asking me, the reality is most will have one.
One.
Yeah.
New Zealand.
That doesn't...
New Zealand is the only country in the OECD of 35 nations without a capital gains tax.
Well, my clear question to the government is this. What will it achieve? Will it solve the housing affordability issues? Not at all. Has it done that in any of those countries you've mentioned? Not at all. Will it solve inequality and poverty in our times? It won't make the blindest bit of difference.
But you are proposing it as some sort of radical notion. You've talked about it collapsing the Kiwi way of life.
Well, because you go through those 30-something countries you've talked about. You find me another country that has as radical, okay, let's be positive about it, bold capital gains tax planned as what the tax working group has come on. It literally applies to everything. 2.9 million KiwiSavers, 600,000 small businesses, family homes, albeit we know they've got an exemption, which in itself creates a remarkable number of unfairnesses as soon as you do that.
Yeah,
but this is actually bolder, bigger, than what you see around the OECD, and I come back to it, won't make any difference. It's a tax grab.
Well, it's interesting. You're now starting to compare us with the OECD, so we're on the same. We're in the same place here. Britain introduced it in 1965. Canada in 1972.
Has it worked?
Australia in 1985.
It hasn't worked. They've had rampant property price inflation, which ultimately is the reason the tax working group has set this up. You know, I say it goes against the Kiwi way of life because quite simply, if you're getting in the way of hard work, of saving and investment, of risk, and you're going to ping people who do that, it's wrong.
People who earn wages, are they not hard workers?
Yeah.
So, and they're getting pinged by PAYE.
64 grand at the end of their working lives in KiwiSaver. And you dispute it. My facts are there all to see. You ask Jacinda Ardern tomorrow how much she says. Look, she won't know. She'll be cagey. She won't want to talk about this.
You're playing the political game here, and fair enough, they've left the pitch wide open to you because there's 2 months' worth of speculation. And so, look, hoia te waka on that. I understand why you do that. But you know, have we given up the ability to have a sensible debate about a capital gains tax? You're saying it's going to be the end of Pavlova, basically. That it's the end of the Kiwi way of life, and you've also plucked the worst bit of the capital gains tax as applies to KiwiSaver. Can't you have a reasonable, rational debate about it?
I want to be reasonable and rational, but
what's preventing you?
Well, no, I am. But what is also quite clear here is there's a deep divide between the parties. I mean, I don't think anyone will be surprised that we are against this tax in the form they put forward. And I see from the government a very clear agenda to pile on more taxes because they believe the beehive knows best and will spend that money better than New Zealanders.
Did you in government increase the capital gains tax?
In 2008 and 2011,
you did.
in incredibly different circumstances,
didn't you?
where there was a global financial crisis.
Well, are you going to bring it? Are you going to rescind it?
I wasn't a minister then.
Are you going to rescind it?
I don't know.
Yes, hey, come on.
No, because to take your point, I'm leader of the...
Here's my point, just so everyone's on the same page, because they won't all know.
Yep.
You increased the bright line test. Well, you introduced a bright line test and said, look, if you sell a property within 2 years, you're going to be subject to a capital gains tax, regardless of the intention test, which is in the IRD legislation.
Sure.
So you did introduce a capital gains tax.
And all I've heard from you is a reason why you wouldn't go the whole hog and do something as ridiculous as this, where you make it over the entire lifetime of the property,
my point being,
and you create all manner of unfairnesses in the process.
That you introduced a capital gains tax, and now you're sitting down telling me that it's going to end the Kiwi way of life.
Come on, this is a world away from what happened there. This is a situation where, you know, someone with an apartment on Oriental Bay in Wellington pays none because it's their family home, and yet the thousands of people in lifestyle properties worth less will pay a capital gains tax. What's fair about that? I mean, we could go on with example after example. The report is a big, as I say, bold capital gains tax. It will get in the way of the Kiwi incentive. It's our way of life. Work hard to have risk and reward, savings and investment. I disagree with it.
Just finally, can I come back to that point? Are you saying this morning that you would take back the bright line test and not have a bright line test at all?
No, I mean, we put in 2 years. This government took it to 5 years.
Are you going to take it back to 2?
To be clear on the 5 years, we haven't decided yet on what we'll do on that. I think you can make arguments either way. My simple point to you is there is a world of difference whether it is 2 or 5 between that and saying no ifs, no buts at any time, you'll pay on the gains you make.
All right. Hey, just occurs to me, Bridges or... Bridges. Presume you'd vote for yourself. Gough or Tamahiri for Premier?
Look, well, I've been
Bridges.
asked that already. Well, no.
Have you been...
I think that the point is this, Guyon.
No, there's no point. Who is it? Which one?
Well, I'm not going to say because actually I will have to work with either of those men, and I want to do that well.
Fair enough. Thanks for your time this morning.
Cheers.
Do appreciate it. Simon Bridges, 10 to 8.